Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to Wasteland Talks, my talk show where I talk about whatever the hell I want. And this week, we're going to be doing another edition of one of my shows, focusing in on a particular director and really talking about, is this person one of the all-time greats? And we're going to be talking about Steven Spielberg in honor of me finally wrapping up his whole entire filmography on Welcome to the Wasteland and coming back again after we talked about Scorsese. It is Robert. Robert, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you as always for having me.
And before we get into your reasons why Steven Spielberg is one of the all-time greats, how about you shamelessly plug whatever you would like to shamelessly plug to the wonderful audience?
Just head over to my Twitter, _Rob's Thoughts. If I ever do anything I want people to see, I post it there. You could also go to SiftPop.com, where I write and lots of other people write. Lots of amazing content, including Mr. Shane Conto, the Wasteland Reviewer. And my Letterboxd, Robert's Thoughts, where I post quality reviews like the one I posted for Swiss Army Man, which said, quote, Daniel Radcliffe and Paul Dano, unquote. So that's where you go. That's where you can go.
I tried to have, because I try to give nice, thorough thoughts, efficient, thorough thoughts on films. But I was doing an article for Scribe, my top 25 most anticipated films of 2023, and I just had fun with it. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, it's a Barbie movie, and and it looks amazing. So of course I'm going to see it.
Also, you haven't seen those movies. There's not really anything thorough to say yet.
Well, and that's the thing, and I think my favorite ones were, I had Asteroid City, and it's like, well, Wes Anderson has a new film where he employs half of Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And then Oppenheimer, I'm like, it's a Christopher Nolan film, and he employs the other half of Hollywood.
The other half, yes.
Can't say no to, well, a lot of people are saying no to big ensembles. They don't seem to be working out so well right now.
It's true.
Look at you, Amsterdam. You employed half of Hollywood. Didn't work out for you.
I think Wes Anderson and Christopher Nolan are much more widely liked and have many fewer problems and allegations and proven, things like fistfights than David O. Russell.
I don't think Christopher Nolan or Wes Anderson have gotten in fistfights with George Clooney before. I would still bet on George Clooney, though, if he got in a fistfight with any of the three of them.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I don't... Well, how big is Christopher Nolan? He seems like he's a big guy. I don't know. But...
Wasn't his thing that he wasn't letting people sit or something like that? He was outlawing chairs on his sets.
Made a comment that she wasn't allowed to sit on the set of Dark Knight Rises. He has to be standing so he can assert dominance over you. Which is hilarious because his hero and main villain in that movie are both 5'9", 5'10". Yeah. So it's Tom Hardy and Christian Bale. It's just not exactly the biggest of stature of hero and villain here, but they made them look big.
Yes, and they make up for it in muscle.
Especially Tom Hardy. My God. Yeah. But we're here to talk about Steven Spielberg.
A different iconic director.
What is your first reason why Steven Spielberg is one of the all-time greats?
Well, I think to me the first reason is the most obvious. And I don't know if it's quite it's definitely not a novel observation, and it's not necessarily an observation about his films, but he's just iconic at this point, right?
Yeah.
So when you go Jaws, Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park, E.T., Schindler's List, those there's no first film that comes to mind when you think of Spielberg. There are 8 first films that come to mind. Amblin has become an adjective at this point. That I think that almost speaks for itself.
Which is funny because that was the name of his first film.
Exactly. It's here's a weird comparison. It's like Adam Sandler doing Happy Madison.
Well, no, it is a brand, right?
Yeah.
You say Spielberg, you think greatness. That's it. That's amazing branding, right? It's just you say a director's name and you just think they make great films. And it's just boom, there it is. And, you see the bicycle going over the moon. You know it's Amblin. It's I'm that one random guy every time a new Nolan trailer drops and Syncope pops up, and I'm the only one being like, "Oh my god!" But yeah, you're right. Happy Madison pops. I was like, it's Adam Sandler. He's
Right.
involved somehow. But the thing is, it's like that. Like, there's very few directors where you're just like you say their name and just greatness is just there.
Has
Scorsese,
Spielberg ever made a bad movie? I don't know if he's ever made a bad one.
1941.
Okay. Well, that's true. You're the one who's just watched all of his movies, and I've still not seen a few.
1941 was a bad movie. I wouldn't say any of the rest of them are like truly bad movies. Because here's the thing. Quick side note. There's a
Sure.
lot of times I see people like, this is one of the worst things I've ever seen. I'm like, you don't watch enough movies.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here like, I watch a lot of trash. And I'm like, I've seen much worse. Where it's like, Morbius, the worst movie I've ever seen. I'm like, I've seen worse. Not much, but I have seen worse. But the thing is, that's the thing. It's like besides 1941, at least every single one of his other films that were like feature in a theater, stuff like that,
Mhm.
have some level of quality to them. They might not always work all the way through. Like watching Hook again as an adult,
Yeah.
it's messy. It's a little all over the place.
Hmm.
Always had some issues, but there's some greatness in there too. But like besides one movie, that's a pretty amazing track record for somebody who's been making movies since the 1960s.
He's got about 36 credits, or for like direct film directing credits on IMDb. It's I think it says a lot when he portrays himself as a boy genius in The Fablemans, and
Uh-huh.
everyone's just like, yeah, like no one's like, oh, no one's
It's
like, this
like
is ridiculous. It's just like, oh
I
yeah, sure,
don't question this at all because it's
right.
just look at him. It's like this man. I listen to the Cinephiles
Mhm.
podcast, and they're doing. I think it was Jaws, and they went into Steven Spielberg. Apparently, he just showed up on a lot one day, took an office, and was just working, and was there for weeks, months, and nobody said a thing. He just that was that confident, and it worked out for him. So
Yeah,
like, there has something to say. It's like you have the right attitude, you could do great things.
the right
So
attitude, and in his case, the right amount of skill too.
correct. You can have all the confidence in the world, and if you could do what Steven Spielberg can do, sky's the limit.
Exactly.
So, but what's your next point?
So I only had two main points. One being that he's iconic, and the other being that he's eclectic.
Yeah,
Um, but great at his eclecticness. I'm going with it. Going to be confident.
yeah.
Um,
There you go.
like adventure, horror, historical drama, sci-fi, regular dramas, and
Mm-hmm.
then just like kind of nebulous genre movies. Just like he can do anything, and he can do it well. All of those that I just listed, there are at least two examples of a great film underneath it in his filmography.
Yeah,
It's you don't say that about a lot of people. Like we just mentioned Nolan, who for a while is considered, or probably still is considered, one of the best working directors. But it's like he kind of stays in his lane genre wise.
mm-hmm.
Oppenheimer's a departure, but it's still like grand scale. But with Spielberg, you go from Indiana Jones to West Side Story to Saving Private Ryan. It's like what? It's E.T.
Yeah.
It's
And what I appreciate is that he doesn't shy away from doing all different kinds of films. And like, I'll admit some of them probably weren't the best idea. Like, I still sit there thinking like The Color Purple probably wasn't the film for Steven Spielberg to make. But
I
like
think he said that too.
he made a good film out of
Mhm.
it. And I'm interested to see what they do with the new one, which has more like it has creators who understand that experience more. But like he made Schindler's List, which is one of the most emotionally devastating movies that you could sit through.
Right.
And he made Saving Private Ryan, same decade he made Hook. He made Jurassic Park and this have released the same year as Schindler's List. It's just
One of the
incredible.
most mind-boggling things in the entire history of the world.
Yeah. And it's like you think about horror. He made Jaws and Jurassic Park. And he may or may not have made Poltergeist. We don't know. Uh, which honestly, I would love to see him dabble in some more horror. Cause like honestly, the first 2/3 of Close Encounters kind of plays that way.
Oh yeah, for
It
sure.
plays with you, and then it reveals what it's really about. And that's the thing, even within a genre, he could make something like Close Encounters, which is extremely mature and not it that's hard science fiction. And then you have things like E.T., which is sentimental and a beautiful film. And then you have things like AI, artificial intelligence, and Minority Report. These are all science
Yep.
fictions, and they're so very different, each of them. I'll admit, I'm like, Steven Spielberg making a musical? Why should I have
Right.
doubted him? And then he made West Side Story even better, arguably, depending on
One
who
of the
you ask.
best looking movies of the last 10 years.
Exactly. And because, there's certain directors that I question, like, why are you making a musical? Looking at you, Guy
Mhm.
Ritchie. Um, when he made the new Aladdin movie, I'm like,
Mhm. Maybe
it doesn't
not.
seem right. And then you watch Spielberg and he does it. And then Spielberg makes a 2.5 hour intimate story about not only his childhood, but what it's like to be inside the head of somebody who sees the world differently. Like that movie was so profound to me because there's moments where it's just like he is in a different kind of plane with a lot of other people. Like his family is falling apart in front of him, and he's looking at what would be the best way to capture the most drama here. And it's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
that's such an interesting thing to make work in that film, and there's just so much variety to him. One of my biggest things why I think he's one of the all-time great film directors is he's an auteur that people forget is an auteur.
Yeah, sure.
Because the thing is, like, it's like you look at a Wes Anderson film and you're like, my God, he has a vision. Because it's all over you. There's no mistaking it. There's directors that have this look, this technical prowess, and you just forget that Spielberg does because he makes populist films a lot of the time. Like
Yeah.
he's made some of the highest grossing films of all time, but here's the thing, they're that great because they're amazingly made. The filmmaking is impeccable. How many directors could have made Jaws work in the situation that he had?
Right.
And
Not
just
many.
no, you would have had this awkward flip flop and giant shark out there looking stupid. And you're just like, this is stupid. It's as trashy as the novel. Because, like, the novel that Jaws is based off is a trashy beach read.
Mhm.
But, like, Spielberg elevated it. And I think that's one of the reasons why he deserves so much credit is he is an incredible director and he brings that vision out and you see it. He's revolutionized film. I'm pretty sure like one person that I could think of who might be a dark horse to steal his Oscar this year, James Cameron is the only one that I could think of that has revolutionized film
Yeah.
more in a grander scale than Steven Spielberg because James Cameron's an inventor and it's just like, you know what? I can't make this work. I'm going to make a new camera. Just does it and then spends the rest of his life making Avatar.
Which is whatever. But
Which is whatever. But Spielberg has that, and I think another thing to him why this might seem like an odd reason why he's great, but I think great workers, no matter what trade, no matter what you do, you surround yourself with the right people. And
Mhm.
he has surrounded himself with some of the best. Just think about how many films, like almost, if I'm not mistaken, every single film has been shot by Jan Kaminski since Schindler's List. Same cinematographer, and his visual palette in his films completely changed from that point on.
Mhm.
And he's had the same cinematographer doing great work. And how many movies did John Williams score for
Right.
Steven Spielberg at this point? And it's amazing. And the great actors want to work with him.
Great actors like Seth Rogen.
Which that's the thing. Like Michelle Williams is a great actress. Paul Dano does not get enough credit.
Oh no.
Just having Judd Hirsch roll up for like a scene.
10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's Spielberg. I feel like I could spoil this a bit because how many of you out there haven't watched Fablemans that's actually not gonna watch it? But like, how many directors can get David Lynch to just roll up and play John Ford in your movie for one scene? It's just like that's a thing. It's like how many films has he made that Tom Hanks has been in?
Yeah.
Tom Hanks is one of the best actors. Like he is an American acting icon, and he's America's dad, and we love him.
It's also funny because Spielberg and Lynch, they couldn't make any different of movies, but Lynch obviously has that sort of respect for Spielberg. They're
Yeah,
just like, yeah, I'll show up for a day to shoot this ridiculous scene, ridiculous in a good way, but it's just like, it's
look,
crazy.
look at this painting.
Where's the
What do you
horizon?
see? What do you see? Where's the horizon? No, where's the horizon?
You need your stogie too.
Yeah, the just the obnoxious length of how long it took him to light that cigar. It's
Mhm.
just like I kept making jokes for weeks leading up to Lincoln that I was just gonna sit there and read the IMDb off. And I did, because I'm just like, look how many actors are in this movie.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. He can get so many great actors, renowned character actors, big name actors, rising stars that just pop up in a film about Abraham Lincoln, which could have easily just been about Daniel Day-Lewis. You already have Daniel
Yeah.
Day-Lewis. So, like, who else do you
Playing
need?
Abraham Lincoln.
So, but
Was it
like,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Adam Driver who just like stand next to each other for one scene and then they
Joseph Gordon-Levitt's
leave?
his son, who has a couple of scenes.
Oh, that's right.
Adam Driver's one of the telegraph
Right.
soldier that just sits there and listens to Abraham Lincoln telling stories. And like Tommy Lee Jones, his little band of investigators and people trying to bribe people is James Spader, John Hawkes, and Tim Blake Nelson. It's just so many great, like Michael Stuhlbarg and Walton Goggins are a couple of the like representatives that they're trying to get to switch their vote. It's just being able to get that kind of work from people, and he gets a lot of great work out of a lot of people. So,
Mhm.
like, think about besides, because like, how many people knew who Sam Neill was? In America at least, watching Jurassic Park in 1993. Pretty sure he was in the piano. And I don't even know if the piano was out at that point. That might have been around the same time. But like Sam Neill became Dr. Alan Grant.
Yep.
And you you're great when great people want to work with you. And I think that's a lot of respect. And like there's people that want to be in Spielberg films, like they want to be in Scorsese films. Just listening to Brendan Fraser talk about how he's so happy that he's gotten to work with Steven Soderbergh and now Scorsese's newest film, because like working with them, if I have to look at another damn article about Dave Bautista being
I
best
know.
wrestler turned actor, but like his whole thing is like he works with great directors. He doesn't want to just be the Rock who just goes out and does rock movies.
Right.
And it's true. He's worked with some amazing directors at this point. And maybe someday he'll be in a Spielberg film. I don't know. All I know is we're getting Bradley Cooper as Frank Bullitt in
I
his
know.
next
Right.
film. And it's just like Spielberg can make whatever the hell he wants at this point. I'll go watch a Bullitt film with Bradley Cooper in it.
But he's been at that point for a while, right? Where he can make whatever he wants. Because when you make Jaws, E.T., Jurassic Park, and all the Indiana Jones movies and Schindler's List, it's like, All right, fine. You have a blank check for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it might be changing now because West Side Story and Fablemans didn't make money. But here's the thing: streamers are going to still pay people money. Just look at Apple
Yeah.
paying for a $200 million Western for Martin Scorsese to go make. So
Doesn't Spielberg also have like a $2 billion net worth or something? I'm sure if he really wanted to, he could finance his own movie.
he 100%.
Even though I just saw an article right before we hopped on that Megalopolis, or however
Oh,
you say it, is
same
falling
article.
apart. Yeah.
Francis Ford Coppola was great at one point.
We'll see. He could still be great, but we might have another
If
Hearts
it
of
doesn't
Darkness
get made,
coming.
it's only halfway done, apparently.
Yep.
But I guess, Robert, do you have any other thoughts that you want to throw out about why you think Spielberg's one of the all-time greats?
Well, yeah, he also we've kind of hit on this indirectly, but he's had so much influence on people too, right? So even in like the last 6 months, I've seen two movies from already widely acclaimed directors doing their Spielberg.
Yep,
Definitely Nope, to
100%.
a certain extent, and White Noise, I think, is also Spielberg, at least in the that middle section, like
Mm,
when they're at the whatever you call it, the safety place, and then they have to escape. It just felt very Spielberg, like alien running
you know
away,
what?
all
It
that kind of
really
stuff.
did, honestly.
Yeah,
That movie's a mess, but I had fun watching it.
I really loved it.
I like, and that you're 100% right. There's definitely no Baumbach was channeling some Spielberg in some of those aspects of that film, like especially when they're like alone at that like gas station or whatever. Like, and
Hmm.
like that felt like I'm watching an '80s Spielberg movie right now.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Spielberg helped set a tone in the '80s with E.T. and Indiana Jones that along with Star Wars really set like what blockbuster cinema was, and you have people like the Duffer Brothers. Like Stranger Things wouldn't exist
Oh no.
if it wasn't for Steven Spielberg.
Right, right.
Like 100% no. We have Stranger Things because of people like Steven Spielberg. And it reciprocates. He went out and made Ready Player One, knowing full heartedly that he influenced so much of pop culture.
I know.
And it's just like that time period is so iconic for so many people, and filmmakers reaching the point where they can make films are so heavily influenced by Spielberg. Like, the first two films that Jordan Peele made were very much influenced by like the Twilight Zone and stuff like that.
Right.
You
Yeah.
could feel that.
Oh
Like
yeah.
he remade the Twilight Zone. But then like 100% Nope feels like Jaws, like very obviously, and it is obvious because he said it out loud, like I did this because I was influenced by Steven Spielberg and the
Hmm.
spectacle and stuff like that. Robert Zemeckis, this might sound mean, but like it's kind of Spielberg light. Like if you watch Back to the Future, I'm like, this could have easily just been a Steven Spielberg movie. But Robert Zemeckis has been riding high on Back to the Future for his whole entire career. I don't know the last time I watched a film of his that I'm like, this was truly great. But it's the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
kind of vibe. It's at least like 30 years, probably. But like, yeah, which is
For me,
really
it's probably Forrest Gump, but yeah.
which is almost 30 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and you even had like peers like Robert Zemeckis, and I think because he came out of ILM, I'm pretty
Hmm.
sure, and like the work that George Lucas and Steven Spielberg did changed cinema, and some people weren't happy about how they changed cinema, including some of their friends, like Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, and Brian De Palma. But like, it's interesting because like there was a big divergence there in the late '70s. Spielberg was making Close Encounters and going into Indiana Jones and stuff like that. Scorsese was still doing like '70s movies where it's just like
Right.
there is no hope in the world. And Spielberg, and I think one of the things that makes, and this is debatable with some people, but I think what makes Spielberg great too is he inspires people. He makes magic on screen and moves so many people, even some of the most cynical people. One of those movies will hit you, and that's something special. There's
Mhm.
movie magic when you watch a Spielberg film.
And I think that's perfectly exemplified. My like possibly my favorite movie moment of 2022 is the final shot of the Fablemans. It's like I'll admit I barely loved the Fablemans, but like I was so taken away by that final shot. It's got so much whimsy. I'm just like I'm just happy about everything in the world because of that final shot.
Yeah,
Because of he's gotten to this point in his career. Honestly, if he doesn't make any other movies, that's like a perfect endpoint. Um, yeah, it was just so beautiful, and it's like a culmination of everything he's done.
exactly. And you know, people for will be showing their kids E.T. and Jaws and Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones until people stop watching movies. That's the amount of impact that he's had.
Hmm.
And there a lot of them are things that you could watch with your family and build those memories. Cause like what were some of the back before this was like a cinephiles movie collection. Some of the first movies that I owned on DVD, it's like I had the original Star Wars trilogy.
Oh yeah.
I had the Indiana Jones trilogy that could have easily ended as a trilogy, and we didn't need to have any more, but we will. Gonna get a fifth one. But the thing is, it's like those help. Like when I was a kid, I watched Indiana Jones. I watched Star Wars. Watched James Bond. Probably way too young, but it is what it is. But it's like
You turned out
those.
okay.
I turned out to be a perfectly functioning adult, and I'm not a womanizing piece of crap. So I think I learned the right lesson from James Bond movies. So there you go. But it's the kind of thing where it's just like people show their kids Indiana Jones and E.T. Unless you're my grandfather who made me watch The Godfather when I was 10, I don't think families are going to be showing their kids Goodfellas when they're kids
Yeah.
and like Taxi Driver and stuff like that. So, not that Scorsese doesn't have the staying, like obviously Scorsese's going to have the staying power because how amazing his films are in cinephiles and will hold them up forever. But there's something special about the lineage that these Spielberg films are going to have throughout history of people, families sharing them with their kids. And then you love them your whole entire life and you're going to show your kids. I can't wait to have kids someday and sit them down and show them Raiders of the Lost Ark for the first time. Or I get to grow old and turn into Sean Connery and be a weird eccentric dad. And like that's one of my favorite Spielberg things is that father-son relationship between Indiana Jones and his dad, which is why for me personally, The Last Crusade's my favorite Spielberg movie.
Hmm.
I just love it to pieces and I've been watching that since I was a kid. Had that DVD box set and watched the hell out of it. So, I don't know, there's something special about Steven Spielberg that's just going to keep it going.
Right. Yeah, I agree. He's one of the best.
Now, Robert, do you have any other thoughts?
I don't think I do. I think we've covered a nice first layer of why Steven Spielberg is great. Obviously, we could go deeper into each one of those
Yep.
points, but I think that covers a lot of it.
And I think all of you should go on your own little Spielberg journey. You don't might not have to go as deep a dive as me. I don't know how much you need to watch like his made for TV movies, except for Duel, because Duel is amazing. I I can't even believe that was like a TV movie made for like no money at all. Because
I've
have
never
you
seen it.
seen
I have to check it out.
it is literally a guy being harassed on the road by a truck driver. And is one of the most thrilling things. I'm like, this is a TV movie. Steven Spielberg directed this. And
Well, there's a shot going around Twitter of the opening of the Columbo show, and it's just like Did you see that?
Mm.
He like starts off of a shot of a car on a street from a skyscraper. Then he pulls back into an office in the skyscraper, and there's a guy working, and he keeps following the car, parking in the parking garage, and then like the guy walks up, and it's just a great intercutting of these two guys, and then the guy in the car shoots the guy on the desk. It's like just an episode of TV, and to use a kid's phrase, he didn't need to go this hard. You know what I mean?
And he did. And
He
you know
did.
what? People say that Breaking Bad revolutionized television.
I know.
So there you go. But that's the thing. It's really hard to delineate this at this point because so much money goes into TV shows at this point. But like even from some throwaway thriller like Duel that Spielberg made for TV, there's something special there. And you should check out his long history of his films and don't skimp on the early 2000s. I think that was one of my favorite things was rewatching a lot of those early 2000s movies and realizing like they don't get enough love. Like
Catch
Minority
Me If You
Report,
Can is great, and Minority Report. Yeah, I love both of those.
amazing. And I am definitely a big fan of Lincoln, The Post, and Bridge of Spies. I think they get shit on too much for being Oscar bait.
Mm,
People throw that around a lot. They're not Green Book. Thank
yeah,
you. So
but what is?
they weren't made by a Farrelly brother. They were made by Steven Spielberg.
Hey, Steven
So
Spielberg could never make Fever Pitch.
if you had Jimmy Fallon, right?
Yep, and Drew Barrymore.
Could have made it. But Robert,
Two Steven Spielberg staples.
yeah, Jimmy Fallon's gonna start. Jimmy Fallon's gonna be Frank Bullitt now. Just you wait. They're gonna fire Bradley Cooper and hire Jimmy Fallon. Um, I'm actually legitimately excited to see Bradley Cooper do a Frank Bullitt film.
Oh yeah,
And just thinking about the amazing car chases that Steven Spielberg's gonna make, because he's made some great ones over the
hmm
years. One in particular, Sugarland Express. There's some legit car chases in that movie. And also great Goldie Hawn performance.
I'll have
First
to
time
check that one
watching.
out still.
But Robert, thank you so much for coming on and chatting about Steven Spielberg.
Of course, happy to be on.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.